Everybody, welcome to Muscular Development's preview of the Texas Pro. And joining me, of course, all the way from across the Atlantic Ocean, from Tiger Towers, the most tigerific person I know, Giles Tiger Thomas. What's up, Giles?
Ron, first of all, I don't mean to start it on a downer, but I'm feeling very disappointed, mate.
Oh, why is that?
Neither of us are wearing our Texas hats, mate.
Not hats, but do you recognize this at all? If there's anything?
Oh, preacher. Yeah.
But do you recognize this as the state of Texas or no?
Yes, I do actually. Yeah.
No, I didn't know if you would, because you're British. Why would you?
Yeah. I've been to Texas. How many times? Twice.
Okay. No, I didn't know if you knew what it looked like, on a map, the outline of it. So
yeah, I was there.
Fair enough. I haven't been there in years, so looking forward to it. And this is the second production, second year that Freddie. What's Freddie's last name?
Nadeau.
Freddie Nadeau. He's a men's physique pro himself, and now, man, he did a bang-up job last year. I wasn't there, but everybody gave it great reviews for a first-time pro production. So battleupproductions.com for all the details. But we're going to get into it because this is a great lineup. As expected, we're going to get a lot of the people, the top guys from Tampa who didn't win. Akim won. But we also have a few newer faces that were not in Tampa, and it's looking like a stacked lineup. Where would you like to begin? Because, boy, we got some names.
First of all, do you know what? Normally, when there's a show this close before, I feel like it takes a bit of a shine off the show the following week. But I think because Tampa was so good, it actually has added excitement for this one. So, and obviously there's a few other names jumping into this one. It's not the same lineups. It's the same lineups, the best of the best from last week with other guys added to it. So for me, this one is going to be off the chain. Oh my gosh, such an American phrase.
Yeah,
but Tampa last week, I mean, wow, what a production. And this for the second year, I'm expecting big things. Because remember last year, remember the lighting, the sound, everyone just came away from that event raving about it. And that was the first year. So I'm expecting big things because Freddie's he does the DJing at the Olympia.
Yeah, I remember that.
So he does the DJing. So, it's a real hands-on, and they put a lot of passion. It's Freddie Nadeau, Sheila, I forget her last name. And then there's a third partner, but I interviewed him last year for the Hype Show and the Pro League Hype Show. Oh, really? And he was just so passionate about this event. And that was the first year. And he's probably going to be working on it nonstop. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah. So I think we'll start with Kamal because it's the top 5 from last week minus Akim. They're all doing it. I think every single one of the top 5. Yeah. So man, let's start with Kamal Algarni, who, he could have won. I feel like he was right there with Akim, and he had things Akim didn't. Obviously, Akim was much bigger than him. He's just a freak. Kamal had him on condition. He had him on the back, but yeah, I don't know what going another week. I don't think Kamal needs to get any tighter. I think he looked bang on right there in Tampa. If he brings that look again, it's going to be his second open show, and he'll be probably around, I guess Chris Aceto said he was 218 on stage, so not much heavier than he was as a 212, but just that little bit of fullness made a real difference. It's a different physique for Kamal. What do you think? Because that was your first time seeing him that heavy too.
Well, when you said that he was going to be because he said to you on Runline that he was going to be 220, yeah. I was really okay, probably by the time he dries out, he's going to be more closer to 210 than he is to 220. But I was nervous. I was really nervous. I thought, oh no, it's going to go to his waist. He's not going to be in condition. And I had it all running through my head. Even though I saw a couple of progress videos, I thought he's not going to be able to bring that to the stage. It's not going to look right on his frame. It's going to spoil his physique. Yeah. But you say, Chris Aceto, I saw he said 219, but 218, 219. But don't forget, like I said last week, he won the Olympia, the 212 Olympia in 2019 as 205.
Wow.
Wow. And that's on a 5'4" guy. So, that's the equivalent of someone like Akim or a Kuglo coming in 20 plus pounds heavier. Sure. And the thing is, it wasn't like 15 pounds and 4 or 5 pounds was arguably water. This was like his delts, his arms. I mean, his back, I mean, everything was just popping. The waist was nice and small. I mean, I was expecting the waist to grow a little bit from the added body weight. The legs were back. I mean, did you see the sweep on his legs?
Oh yeah, I was right there.
You were there. I mean, it was absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, I just could not believe what I was seeing at 51 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this has never, somebody I saw on Instagram, someone said, this has never been done before. And they're right. No one has ever done this before. No one's actually managed to take leaps forward. Like really, not many guys past even, I mean, I'm being generous saying 45, but maybe even 40, you don't see big jumps forward. So it really tells me that Kamal was actually, I'm really glad that we got to see this version of him, because we won't get to see that version of him if he does the 212 at Olympia. He's not going to look as impressive,
right?
You know, but he's going to need to be 212 to be a 212. Obviously, that makes sense. Yeah. But I mean, this riddle bicep and everything, it was just, he took everything to another level. And it's like Chris Aceto said on his Instagram, he said, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you know, and when we say Akim's bigger, if Kamal is 5'4" and almost 220 pounds, Akim is about 5'10", maybe 5'11", significantly taller. And I think he was, I want to say somewhere between, he was in the 250s. I want to say like 255, something like that. So if you do the math, they really are about the same size. One's just much taller and wider because Akim's got a much bigger frame, obviously. But
well, they say it's 10 pounds per inch, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, if that's roughly true, then I'm so bad at math. But let's see, 60. So yeah,
pounds.
So he was bigger. He was actually bigger. He would have been
220 at 5'4", and Akim is 260 or whatever at, you know, that, or 250. Then actually Kamal is actually thicker for his height.
Yeah, true. So Kamal is going to go up against some even bigger guy here. The heavy favorite, Texas's own, originally from Michigan, Steve Kuglo. Very, very close runner-up last year to Ian Valliere. And man, Steve barely missed out on getting to the Olympia. He did the Arnold, and it was its third there. It's been certainly a whole year where I bet he's been just chomping at the bit to get back on stage right there in Texas, his backyard, where so many friends, training partners, the whole crew around there. I feel like I'm going to be talking to him soon, but I believe this is a show he is dead set on winning. I think he's going to bring his best. For him, he's about 280 on stage in great condition. So it's going to be he's going to be the man to beat as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, he did this last year. He kind of left it to one of the last shows, and unfortunately, last year it did not pay off. And now, don't forget, he was 6th in 2019 at the Olympia, and he hasn't done the 2020. He sat that one out. He didn't qualify for 2021. So really, it's kind of like it has to be a one and done deal for him in this one. So he has to bring his best. Otherwise, like Akim last week, if he didn't bring, or close to his best, he would have got knocked right down to 3rd and 4th in these kinds of lineups. Yeah. So I'm really, after what I saw last week, I think Steve is probably the shoe-in to win this one. Yeah. Even if Kamal looks as good and a couple other guys as well. But it'll be interesting to see, because part of me doesn't want him to not qualify again this year, but at the end of the day, I want to make sure that if he does win, he deserves the win, and it's and we do see the best version of him ever. So yeah, I just and if he doesn't win this, then I mean, what's he going to do? Is he going to have to fly to Italy or the Arnold?
You got the Yamamoto Cup, you have the Arnold UK, you have Legion Sports, but I mean, then he's going to have to drag out the prep and stay on prep for like another 2 months, basically. I'm sure he doesn't want to do that.
He can't miss the Olympia again. He can't miss the Olympia again.
No, if he misses another Olympia, I'm sure he's not going to miss it. He's going to do whatever it takes to get enough points or win something. He's going to get his ass on stage at the Olympia. He better, because I mean, he's one of the best. Like a top 6 Olympia guy not being in the Olympia for 3 years. No, unacceptable. You got to get there, Steve. Do it.
I would not want the pressure that Steve Kugler has right now.
Yeah, true. So right behind Kamal last week in Tampa, it was 3 days ago for me. You just told me he wasn't on the list, but he's jumping in. The young Canadian kid, Quintin Aria, Quint Beastwood. I was so impressed with him because I hadn't seen him. He had competed last fall over in Europe, so I didn't see him there. I hadn't seen the improvements in person that he made. And man, he's really fulfilling he's filling out his frame. He's fulfilling his potential. I still feel he's on the way. This is not the final form of Quint. He's 26 years old. He's a kid. But wow, the shape, the structure, the muscle quality for someone that young. I was so impressed with Quintin, and I think he's going to be in the running for this show as well.
After what I saw last week, I honestly believe now he's in the conversation with maybe 5 or 6 guys for literally being a future Mr. Olympia. He's got the height, he's got the frame. I mean, I honestly, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like with Kamal, I couldn't believe what I was seeing last week, because don't forget, I was in Romania doing the live stream. So I was sat there front row watching him, and I was like, okay, the legs are kind of ahead. The upper body just looks like it really needs a good 2 years at least to fill out. Yeah. But he did what Samson did. Actually, Samson did it from the Romania to the Arnold Classic, and he made so much improvements. I mean, I said that on the comments on the forum. I said that frontal bicep belongs in the Louvre. Honestly, it's like a work of art. I mean, I was like, I'd have had no arguments if he'd have won that last week. I thought he looked absolutely incredible. The back's filled out, the chest is coming. I mean, his side chest, everything, his shoulders, his chest, everything was popping, everything was bursting, just the roundness, the shape. And I thought that would take him at least 2 years to achieve. And he's done it in what, 8 months, 9 months?
Yeah, very brief amount of time since his last show. He competed toward the very end of last year. The Romania was a post-Olympia show, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was November. Yeah. And that waist is tiny. I mean, the detail. I was so excited and so happy to see those amount of improvements. And to be honest, I'm really looking forward to seeing him next to Andrew Jacked.
Yeah, let's get into that. I want to say with Quintin, one last thing is I do want to see more back thickness on him. I think that's, another missing puzzle piece that I have no doubt he's going to keep building and getting better and better. But with a thicker back, man, he would have been pushing both. Just a little more upper body fullness and thickness, but especially in the back, I think he would have been pushing both of those guys even harder last week in Tampa for the win. But let's talk.
But the thing is, can you imagine how his raidable bicep will look with a bit more back thickness? Because I saw some pictures today that he posted. It was a raidable bicep, and it blew my socks off. And I was just thinking, I know that guy can get more size and more development on his back, and he already has a beautiful. I think it's like he's 6'1", and it's just so great to see these like really tall guys with good structures, coming through. So I'm rooting for the tall guy.
And he did not. I asked him, "What's your waist measure?" And he had no idea. But I'm going to throw. I bet it's no more than 30 inches. I bet it isn't. It's tiny. You can see it when he's standing there, how small, how narrow his waist is.
These Nigerian guys, because I spoke to Samson, I said, Samson, you're 320 pounds. What's your waist measure at the moment? And he said 34 inches at 320 pounds.
Man, speaking of Nigerians, next up is Andrew Obaika Chinedu, but you all know him as Andrew Jacked. So he is definitely the guy everyone is waiting to see. This is his pro debut. He turned pro at the Arnold Amateur back in March, but that was, I think he prepped for 6 weeks, and he was dealing with a few issues with that prep. So it wasn't anywhere near what he's capable of looking like. And if you've been seeing the pictures of him lately, miles ahead of that. So we put him on, but we even put him on the cover of MD based on the Arnold Amateur win. That's how you have it right there. You have it around somewhere. It would have been probably the March. There you go. So, I mean, look at the genetics on this guy. From Nigeria, living in Dubai for the past few years, but those arms on him, the taper, the quads, and he's been improving drastically. He's been working hard on his legs to try to get them to match that crazy, crazy upper body. And again, like Samson, like Quintin, tiny waist, very wide shoulders and upper back, that beautiful Tony Freeman X frame. And man, I'm very, very anxious to see him finally on a pro stage next to this quality of competition to see how he really stacks up, because you can't really judge these guys on their own. You have to see how they look next to the other top guys.
I'll be honest, because I was surprised, because I heard that he was going to make his pro debut at the Arnold Classic next year, because by winning his pro card at the Arnold Amateur, that gets him an invite, like Morgan Ass did in 2019, 2020, when he won the Amateur. He qualified for the pro the following year. So I was really shocked to see him competing so soon. But to be honest, I think this guy has the potential to be one of the very best. But you know what? Potential is a big word, isn't it? So he has a big frame. I think he's got I saw a video the other week, and do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the improvements Flex Wheeler made from when he won the USA's in 92 to when he won the Arnold Classic a year later. Wow. It's like he had this, like in that picture there on the front cover, he's got everything's there, but it needs refinement, it needs detail. And this video I saw, which must have been, I mean, it was a few weeks ago now, and already there, he reminded me of the kind of package that Flex Wheeler brought in 93 Arnold Classic, where everything was just the tie-ins and just everything, the detail, the separation, everything was just like, it looked incredible. So and again, another tall guy. So I'm going to be very interested to see him next to Quintin, to see who bests each other, because that's the two I want to see that are tall, wide, similar kind of level in terms of potential and genetic shape. But like, I wasn't actually that sold on him even when he turned pro. But what I saw the other week, to be honest, what he'd done in such a short space of time, I wasn't expecting. So, and in a good way. So I'm really impressed with this guy. But I think I have no idea how he's going to do in this lineup. Like I said, I want to see him next to Quintin, but I do think he's someone that we are going to need to watch in the next couple of years. And depending on how fast he can improve, will depend upon that, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, but I think he has the potential to be like a top 6 Olympia guy. I just don't know whether it'll be in a year or 3 or 4 years, you know?
I mean, it's possible he could look so good. He could win this. He could win his pro debut. I've seen stranger things happen, and that's going to talk about putting him on the map, talk about his stock rising. That would have him beating Kamal, Steve, Kuglo, all these guys, Quintin. It would put him on the map in a huge way as a pro. So we'll see what happens. You know, you never know. Let's get into the young guy. What's he, 24, 25? The Martian, Martin Fitzwater, who did this show last year as his pro debut. Condition, I wasn't impressed with his condition, but boy, you could see the potential in him. He was 4th place, and he's been making such, as you would expect with someone that young, he has made leaps and bounds improvements since last year. Like I said, last year, I was like, he'll be good in a few years, but now I'm already seeing it. He's ahead of schedule. He's looking fantastic, size, shape, and the condition. I'm seeing the condition now. So I'm very, very curious to see how he looks and how he fares.
I'm very excited to see him, because even though he nearly knocked me out with his elbow when he was posing at the Sweden show back in April, and we spent a bit of time together and stuff. He's a great kid. I got a lot of time for Martin. He's one of these guys. Everything was there. Even when he got that first call out in 4th place at Tampa, a really good lineup, everything was there already physically. Every body part, he doesn't have a bad pose. You know, he's not lacking any body part. It was just the refinement and the conditioning. And I don't even know why he did that Legion Sports Show last year, because he jumped in at the last minute and he kind of didn't even look as good as he did at Texas. But I spoke to Branch in Sweden, and I said, Branch, I said, you know, I said, you're taking this kid under your wing. I said, are we gonna see like Branch Warren level grainy conditioning? Yeah. And he nodded, he went, hell yeah, like that. He says, I'll make sure he does. Do you know what I mean? I mean, and Branch really is hands-on, because when they were traveling a lot with on the Gasp team, the tour they did, the Iron Will tour, you know, he really is. He's really got sort of full control of this kid now. So, and really the kid just needs to suffer a bit, but he's training with Keon, and Keon didn't bring 100% condition last week, and that was with the help of Patrick Tour. So I don't know whether, do you know what I mean? Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
I don't know whether he's going to be able to. I need to see the best conditioning ever from this kid, because otherwise it's just going to be, oh, well, next year, he's young. I want to see good conditioning from this kid, because, you know, and if he's in his best condition, like by far, which he'll need to be in this lineup, I want to see him next to Kamal.
Yeah, sure. You know, I think we should let people know that you and I are both condition snobs. We have an extremely high expectation of these athletes. Yeah, you know, I expect everyone that's a professional to show up on a pro stage just shredded. And I know it never happens. You know, people spill over. They didn't diet long. They cheated on it. There's a lot of factors that go into it, but that's one thing you and I both demand to see out of these people: condition.
But also, Ron, you know, it's sometimes people who don't have the right guidance don't even know, or the people around them don't even know what real condition is. Like, they'll see you in the gym, and just because you've got abs, they go, oh, you're shredded. And you're like, look, I need 8 weeks prep for a show, you know? Yeah. Whereas someone like Branch, you know, if his Branch is with him, he's going to look at him, and Martin's going to probably be feeling like he's ready. And Branch is probably going to destroy him and say, you've got 8 pounds to lose. You've got 4 weeks more hard dieting. you know, because someone like Branch has experienced enough to know what real condition is. And I just hope and pray, I got everything crossed, that he really does bring the condition, because absolutely shredded Martin with the thickness. I mean, even what he looked like in April in the gym, just training next to us and posing. I mean, the kid is so thick and he's a maniac in the gym. And he's really, I just want to see him. I just want to see him. Obviously, I want to see him at his absolute best, because, you know, otherwise otherwise he'll get knocked out of the top 6. He could be like a 7th, 8th, 9th place guy, when really he should be a first call out, you know, top 3, at very, very least top 5 guy. But you know, he's going to, I mean, especially next to someone like Kamal, who was bringing proper 90s level in conditioning. So I just hope that him and Kamal, I hope Kamal doesn't completely blow him off the stage with the condition, so it's not even a factor, because I want to see, I mean, 24 and 51 next to each other. Crazy, isn't it? 27 years difference.
He'll be 52 in November. I was I needed to know exactly how old he was, because it's important. So another guy I'm looking forward to see, because he surprised me, was Texas's Mackey, Joe Mackey, 4th place in Tampa. I remember seeing him before, and his legs were a real liability. I was like, he's better. If he doesn't bring these legs up, I don't think he should even keep showing up at these shows, because his upper body is just massive. You know, he hits the most muscular. It reminds me of Johnny Jackson. The traps, they actually touch his earlobes. They are that big. It's one of those things. But
900 deadlift.
900-pound deadlifts will do that for you, I'm sure. But yeah, I was impressed, because he did bring the legs up significantly. I don't think they quite match his upper body yet, but they're very close. And he's got a very aesthetic physique for someone that big. I picked out the thumbnail for the posing video on the Instagram stories for MD. He does this arms out pose, and man, it's a great shot for him. You know, and he was somebody I was not expecting much from at all. I figured, second call out, maybe he'll be like 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, but no, he knocked it out. Condition was really good. So Joe Mackey, man, props to him, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again right there in his own home state.
I was so like you. I was hoping for the best, but expecting the worst. You know, and when you see and you follow their social media, and every single video is just them training hard as fuck, and they're just smashing it out the park. And they're you know, I mean, you can tell the guys that are really only focusing when they start their prep, and the ones that are literally, as soon as they walked off stage last year, like literally on a mission to bring something all new. Now, it would have been such a disappointment if he'd have walked out, done that, and he'd be like, oh, he looks exactly the same. But for me, like I said, for me, it was his chest and back that needed to fill out, and he did it this year. So I was so happy to see the chest and the back. Really, I mean, his most muscular. It looked like you'd photoshopped the picture, and it was one of the ones off your phone. But yeah, I mean, I was so happy to see the package he brought. In fact, I'm trying to decide who was the most improved, whether it was him or Quintin or, you know, or Kamal. But yeah, I was very excited to see him, and I'm glad he got a good placing as well, because I would have been really bummed out if he'd have got like 8th or 9th again, you know, and they pulled him down on one small thing. But it was good to see that those Instagram pictures that I was seeing of the back poses when he was training with Milos, I'm glad that actually translated to the stage, and I'm very, very excited for where he's going to go next, actually. And I actually think he's going to be a real factor in this show as well.
Yeah, I don't see why not. And another guy we're going to have to keep an eye on, of course, Florida's own Phil Klejar. Phil was 5th place in Tampa. He was disappointed. He, you know, obviously hoped to do better. He was 2nd place last year. Yeah, to Ian. And then he went to Texas, and that was one of the best 3-man battles I remember seeing in recent years between Ian, Kuglo, and Phil. They all looked just crazy. And Phil, you know, last year he looked better, significantly better a week later in Texas than he had in Tampa the week before. Can he do that again? I'm very curious to see. He's a big guy with really good shape, massive back, arms, legs, and the nicest guy ever, a gentle giant. So I'm really rooting for Team Klejar on Instagram, Phil Klejar.
I was just happy that he really, like, what he brought in Boston compared. I didn't want him to bring that again after, because he probably would have carried on really a prep, well, not the whole time, but you know, he pretty much would have been focused all year on different shows, you know. And I was hoping that it wasn't like a start of a decline of his physique, and Boston was basically the best he could bring. And what he brought last week I thought was very, very impressive. Everything, the legs were shredded, everything was dry, tight. Felt like he was a little bit flatter than he was, say, at the Texas Pro last year. But you know, then thing is, sometimes you've got to factor in things like lighting. You know, last year's Texas had beautiful lighting, and I'm expecting him to be better this week than he was in Tampa, because even if he's the same, he's going to look better because it's got that. Texas has that really superb lighting. So, but I was just happy that he really brought a good package, and I thought he looked absolutely fantastic. But you know, he was in a very, very tough show last week. You know, it was very deep. You know, the whole top 10 was incredible. You know, and unfortunately there were people at their best ever that weren't even in top 5. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm rooting for him. And like I said, again, he's very, very strong on the back shots, which really carries him through. You know. Because I mean, how many shows is the readable bicep the deciding factor? And he has one of the best readable biceps out there today. Absolutely. So, you know, so I'm rooting for him.
I think you were just trying to introduce the next guy we're going to talk about, because Eddie Bracamonte from San Diego, California, best I've ever seen him by far. And I think he's placed higher in smaller shows, but 6th place in that lineup was damn good. Very, very impressed with Eddie. I'd never seen him really in condition, what I consider condition before. Close, but this time, you know, I could tell from his Instagram posts, his cheeks were just carved out, you know, that skull face, and he brought it. I was a big dude with great condition, big structure. So Eddie's going to be in the mix again. I don't know if he's got how he's going to fare. We'll find out, but I'm looking forward to seeing him again, see if he can get even better for this show.
It didn't even look like the same guy, did it?
Yeah, like, who's that? Oh, that's Eddie.
I mean, everything, his face, his physique looked complete. Isn't it funny when guys get really, really true condition, it shows you what their actual physique really does look like, because he was just such a big, he was just such a monster before, but I mean, he just needed to come down and be chiseled and get the deep leg separations and really see what he was all about. I mean, his glutes, his hamstrings. I mean, that was someone, you know, that's someone that really was on a mission and really suffered to get that condition. And I messaged him on Instagram today, and we were chatting back and forth. And I said, congratulations, mate. I said, I've wanted that for you for a good 2 years at least, because it's frustrating to see guys with a lot of size and great physiques, you know, coming in 80%, 85. And you just think, is that the best they can do? And then he's teamed up with Matt Jansen. And, you know, literally he leveled up. He took it to a whole new, you know, realm of conditioning. And I was just so happy for him. And I'm glad he got a top 6 in a show that tough, because it would have been soul destroying for him to get a 12th or 13th, you know, because if he hadn't have brought good condition, that's where he would have placed. But he got a top 6, and I hope he gets the same this week. Yeah.
And let's move into 212, because we want to talk about condition. I was so impressed with Karrethbajo, the 2021 Tampa champ. Very, very close to Keon. Keon has that round, bubbly muscle. It's a prettier physique. Kareth's condition was several levels above Keon's. He's got that old man muscle, as I like to say, all that detail, the striations, that crispness, every little muscle fiber was showing. And, you know, he, like a good sportsman, he smiled with 2nd place. He congratulated Keon. You know, inside, I'm sure he was bummed out, but I hope and pray he pulls off a win here, because I want to see this guy in Olympia. He really deserves to be in Olympia again, as he was last year. Karrethbajo from Connecticut.
I absolutely hope he gets the win here. I'm completely rooting for Kareth, because like we all like to see the guys, the good guys that take big jumps ahead, and they take, like, you know, like Eddie Bracamontes and Quintin, stuff like that. It's great to see these guys taking big strides forward. But even when you saw that frontal bicep and he had his eyes all squinted like that last week, and I mean, my eyes just went to his quads, and I was like, yeah, this guy's in condition. At the prejudging last week, and I don't want to talk too much about last week, but the prejudging last week, I had him clear win. I had it for me, you know, with the conditioning thing. And at the night show, it's not that Keon improved; it's just that he faded. Kareth faded for me, and it was just enough for Keon to sneak through. So all he has to do is maintain what he brought to the prejudging last week, and I think it's a done deal. And I really, really want to see him at the Olympics, because, like he said, he's super complete. He's thick. He's got one of the craziest chests in the industry, you know, along with Akeem. And it's just, I love, you know, me. I just, you know, I celebrate condition, and it's, you know, this guy really worked hard for this. So I'm glad that he's doing this show, and I really, really, really hope he gets the win.
And speaking of improvements, if you look at his Instagram, he posted a picture of 2020 last year to this year, and I didn't realize how much better he was than he was last year. But he added some size, and he was in better condition. So and Wow.
Do you know what the difference in body weight was? Because if he was that much better, or was he just in better condition but at a similar body weight?
Not sure.
I'd like to know, actually.
I might have asked him I did an interview after the show in the lobby. He might have told me. I don't remember, man. It was all blur.
Because he looks like a guy that actually struggles to make 212. So if he was struggling to make 212 last year, and he's bigger this year, then maybe that's why the condition was so good, because he had to get it. Because maybe he's one of these guys that's ready at 215 to 220 and then just has to really suffer to get down to 212. Be interesting.
I mean, that's why we see the 212 consistently has better condition than the open, because they do have to get down to a body weight. So they can't just come in big and full, because they might be 220 or something,
Although Clarida's the exception. I mean, he's 170 and he's already shredded.
That's true. Not everyone's going to be a Sean Clarida. Next, I want to talk about Ahmed El Sadani. He seemed to want to go by El Wardani at this show. So that's what Dennis James announced him as. On the score sheet, it says El Sadani or Sandani, but 6th place because condition wasn't there. If it's a body fat issue, there's not much he's going to do in 1 week. If it was a water issue where he had overspilled or something, he won the show last year. He was a 212 champ last year at the Texas Pro. If he comes in looking shredded, this guy's got one of the greatest physiques in the 212, Ahmed. So big fan of that physique. His front double bicep, his front lat spread, beautiful shape. Everything I'm looking for, the peak biceps, the tricep drop, the lats popping out from the side, the quad sweep. He's got it all. He just needs to fix that condition. I hope and pray 7 days is enough time.
I was really disappointed last week when I saw him, because I was impressed in one way by how much bigger he was, because I didn't think he could get that much bigger as a 212, because I think the weight cap would have prevented him from doing so. Yeah. But I was really disappointed, because it's like I could tell in his side chest, he posted in the morning, he had like lines in his glutes, but he was trying to distract you away from the fact that the upper body was full and big and thick, but it wasn't separated, it wasn't conditioned like I'd like to see for him to be really doing battle in a show like this. And 6th place, he should have been up. He should have been him, Kareth, and Keon. Really, if he'd have been at his best. But I mean, do you know? He said he messaged what he said on the thing about should I go open or 212. To me, it almost looked like he's wanting to do 2 open, because he looks so much thicker. But you can't bring that to the 212. You can't. You got to bring the condition. And like you said, what realistically can you do in a week? If you could really, I mean, you'd have to go drastic, like 0 carb it and up the cardio and try and just like literally just come in on fumes, But even 4 or 5 pound off in a week, maybe 6 maximum.
He didn't. If it's a body fat thing, he didn't look 1 week out to me. He looked about 3 or 4 weeks out.
It was the back shots. That's where it really fell down. The side, he was nice and full in front, but he was full and big. But the back shots really showed the fact that he was a good. I said on the forum, I said he looks 3 or 4 weeks out. So I'm not expecting him to be a factor here. But I think if there's any more 212 shows in a few weeks, if he carries on and drops, God, you're talking 6 to 8 pound is being generous. But he could still get a win and absolutely be a factor at the Olympia. I mean, he's a top 5 Olympia guy for me. Well, top 5, top 6 guy. But he's really got to bring it down and stop trying to go for the scale or the fullness and maybe just really aim for condition, because someone with that level of physique, I mean, his frontal bicep, his front lat spread, his side chest, I mean, they're phenomenal shots. I mean, he is a phenomenal 212, but he's really going to have to suck it down. And I'm not expecting him to be a factor this weekend, but I would like to see some improvement at least.
Okay, let's talk condition. This guy never disappoints. Nathan Eppler from Indiana was 3rd place in Tampa. He's definitely on the taller side. He's about 5'8", which is, that's a giant for a 212. But man, he makes up for it with just so much muscle quality and detail. He didn't even plan on doing any shows, I don't think, because he had opened up a gym. He said while he was building the gym and doing all that, he lost 25 pounds. But then I guess he started looking better, feeling better, and jumped into this show. And boy, he looked fantastic. I think Nathan's going to be a factor here, because I know he's not going to be off on his condition. He'll be shredded.
With Nathan, I love Nathan's physique, but for me, the separation in the upper body was better at the Olympia last year, and I think it was even better at Indy last year and the New York Pro. Yeah. Like he just, again, not to the level of Ahmad's, but everything looked nice and full. But like the between the chest and the shoulders, And in the chest itself, I felt like he just lacked the detail that he had last year, which he needs. I do think he could do it in a week, actually, because if he was third place last week, he could probably drop a couple of pounds at least. But to get that detail back in his shoulders and his chest, which for me was kind of, because he's got a lovely shape, he's got a really distinctive shape. Yeah. But I still think he was probably 3 to 5% sharper and more detailed at the Olympia last year and the New York Pro. So yes, he could do it in a week, which would make him definitely a factor and also give Karreth a lot of problems for the win.
So another guy I was very impressed with in Tampa was 4th place in his debut from Canada, Cody Drobot, rhymes with robot. Yeah. Prepped by Neil Hill. And man, I knew who he was, but he wasn't someone when I saw his name on the list, I was like, I didn't think he'd be someone in the mix for the win, but he was right up there in the first call out and deserved it. You know, not the biggest kid yet. He's still got room to grow, but beautiful shape and muscle quality, structure, everything's there. He's well on his way. That was a fantastic pro debut. 4th place in that lineup with Keon and Karreth and Nathan and Ahmed, some top names. Should be proud of himself. I was very impressed.
That was his pro debut?
I believe so. Yeah.
Wow. Do you know what, mate? You say that you didn't see him coming, but I said, why is no one talking about Cody? I said it on the forum before the show, because the only reason why was because I saw a video that Neil Hill posted. And I was like, holy shit, if this is one of those guys that actually looks as good as that as he does on stage, which he did, he's going to be a force. So I think he's absolutely fantastic. And I think his back shots was sensational. The rear lat spread, the rear bicep. He's got like an open level size back on a 212 guy. But I was so impressed. I like the way he presents himself. I like the way he puts a little twist on some of the poses. He's got lovely lines, aesthetics. You know what I said on the forum? I said it's really nice to see exciting new stars, like we had like last year when we had Tony Burton and Nathan Eppler. These guys coming into the 212, because we need those exciting new guys to keep the 212 class going, especially with a lot of guys jumping into these open shows like Kamal and Clarida and Calderon, I was super impressed, and I'm glad he's doing this show as well, get the experience, and Neil will be tweaking him as well, so to see what he can, because obviously he's got to learn his body as well. But so excited, so happy to see, like I said, an exciting new face to the 212, and I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I'm a fan.
Cool. So that transitions into another new face in the 212. Ricky Moton Jr. was a great classic guy for the last couple of years. He filled out. Boy, did he fill out. And he kept the same proportions, kept his small waist. He's just really rounder and fuller, bigger guy now. 5th place. Condition, I wasn't happy with his condition. I want to see him a lot tighter than that. But that tells you how good he is to be what I consider off. And he was still top 5 in a pretty damn deep 212 lineup. I think he just needs to dial it in, because it's a lot of new mass. And a lot of times when guys add the new mass, it takes a little while to figure out their body and learn how to peak right at that higher body weight and with more size. I think once he does that, Ricky Moton Jr., he's going to be right up there with the very best of them in the 212s.
I tell you what, I was not expecting what he brought last week, because when obviously, because I remember seeing him as a classic at the Arnold Classic a few years ago. Yeah. And I kind of remember his physique, I remember it quite well. But I tell you what, it was the front lat spread. When he hit it, I thought, that guy was a classic. His quads, his back. He's like, you expect something. It just tells you how much some of these guys are really sucking it down to the classic. If they look a similar way in the classic and then they do jump up to 212 and look like that, it shows you that they made the right decision because it is a big gamble. When you're a top guy in one category and you're wanting to, like Tony Burton going from 212 to open, it's a big gamble. Yeah. So he obviously must have struggled badly to get down to the classic.
I spoke with him. He said the last few shows he did as a classic, it was just horrible trying to make weight. His body was, he would be like 225 at a week out or something. And
that's hell.
He did it, but it was just, no, I'm sorry, whatever. I got the body weight wrong. He was like a good 10 to 15 pounds over at like a week out every time. And he had to really struggle, 0 carbs, all that stuff to get to it. So,
and even pride as an athlete. Imagine, you're looking in the mirror, you know, and you're a few weeks out from a 212 show, and you know that this is the best you've ever looked and the best your physique can look, and you get on the scale and you're like over 220, it must be like soul destroying to think, I'm going to take 10 pounds off this just so I can get into a category. Yeah. So I commend him for stepping up now from the classic to the 212. But I was very impressed. I really like what he brought. And I think, like Cody, I think he's going to be a really good new addition to the 212 class. And he already made a top 5 in in one of probably the best 212 shows I've seen outside of Olympia for years that I can remember off the top of my head. So it'd be interesting to see if he comes in tighter this week, because, you know, there's a guy that could give someone like Kareth some, you know, some serious hassle there, you know?
Yeah. And the dark horse, you alerted me to this guy. He's been on the MD forums. People have been making threads about him for years. Jordan Janowitz out of Michigan. He was knocking on the door of a pro card for years. As far back as 2014, he was second in the North Americans, the light heavy. He moved up to heavyweight. That's where he finally turned pro at the Nationals last November. But this guy's been looking like a pro for a very long time. And now we finally get to see him on a pro stage where, you know, obviously he belongs. He's got everything a pro should have. The size, really good muscle separation and detail. Just a very, very complete, dense physique in great condition.
The reason I'm laughing is because you're saying about details, like that picture I sent you earlier on of him with the shoulder. I mean, he literally looks like he's had the skin peeled off this guy. I mean, if you're talking about Branch Warren, top level conditioning, I mean, like I said, we're conditioning snobs. So this guy really has caught my attention. And I've seen a couple of videos posted of him outside and, you know, not under like, you know, some good overhead lighting. And let's have a look. Yeah, this is the picture I sent Ron earlier on.
Does this ever work? Look at that. It's kind of blurry. There you go. Look at that.
Wow. I mean,
if you just saw that, you'd think that's Branch, right?
Yeah.
I'm still shaking from my pre-workout. I took 3 hours ago. Jeez.
3 days ago. The thing is, like, I just assumed when I saw the video posted on one of the Instagram accounts a few days ago, I was like, oh, he's a good new open guy because he looks so big. Yeah. So when I saw his name on the 212 lineup, I thought, holy shit, this guy is, and I love his back shots. I mean, his back shots are really freaky and crazy lines, and you know, he's one of these guys who looks like he's like photoshopped, you know what I mean, video shot, but he's got, and then the conditioning and the density that this guy's got on top. Here's the guy that I think we need to keep an eye out on, because I think he's going to be, he could cause an upset, this guy. I mean, he might be one of these guys that falls in 5th or 6th, but I honestly think that when he stands next to the other guys, he could be the one that might jump in and be like 1st, 2nd, or 3rd or something. So, and take out bigger names, you know?
He could take out almost or all of the names we just mentioned. Who knows?
100%,
It's
100%.
We've seen it happen.
Yeah.
Let's move on to classic. So typically when people win a show, they don't go to the show the next week because they've already got their Olympic qualification. But hey, Ian Valliere did it last year, Tampa to Texas. And now Courage Opara, a Texan himself, I believe. He was the classic winner in Tampa. He's jumping into this to try to go 2 for 2. You know, this is a guy we had our eye on for years. We saw him at the Arnold 3rd place back in 2018. And he told I did that interview with him. He hasn't trained legs in a year and a half.
What?
Because his upper body was behind his legs. That was the feedback from the judges. So he's been cutting back, and eventually he just stopped training legs. I guess they get enough to maintain just from cardio, because they don't look like the legs of someone who hasn't trained him in a year and a half. They look phenomenal, but his upper body is filling out and catching up. So he's got better balance and all that. But man, he's one of the best. I need to see him in the Olympia in top shape again. He did it last year. I don't think he fared that well. Was he like 7th or 8th or 9th or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
He was in top 10. The top 10's damn good. That's like 25 guys in classic.
Yeah, he was the clear winner last week. I mean, he was my pick coming in, you know, when we did the Tampa preview. And it's obviously it's his pride. It's on his backyard. So he's probably like he's Steve, you know, Steve Kuglo. He wants to win this because this is his area. Probably wants to pick up a bit of prize money. Nice to go into Olympia with 2 wins rather than 1. But for me, he's actually he's, now I think about it, he's not actually the like I felt about Tampa last week. I don't think he's not my clear favorite to win this. But I do like his physique, and I'm glad he won last week, and I'm glad that one of these top guys has managed to kind of, you know, 3-4 years later is still managing to maintain that level, because some guys, they drop off, some guys move up, but he's still managing to maintain a very respectable level. So, you know, to be a top 10 Olympia guy, or top 3 at the Arnold Classic, which he was 4 years ago, you know, in a class that has literally dozens and hundreds of new names and good new faces. I mean, you know, I'd say 80% of the people I see in Classic now are all new faces that I never knew before. You know, so the talent pool is just exploding right now for Classic. So to maintain that, that's impressive. But he's going to have his work cut out in this one.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to the new name, but I want to mention the guy that Valentin Petrov from the UK in third place in Tampa. Never heard of the guy. When I saw his name on the list, I was like, just went right past it. Never heard of him. But again, here we go. Classic physique. Every single show I go to, someone in that lineup I've never heard of always just wows me. And this guy had a great shape, structure, presentation. You know, he's a great classic physique pro. So he's someone else we're going to be talking about in this show. Valentin Petrov, all the way from the UK. Petrov.
Very British name. Valentin Petrov. Yeah. I looked at his Instagram and I was actually following him. But he wasn't on my radar. Obviously I was seeing pictures and I thought, yeah, he's good, but he didn't pop up as like, oh, he'll be a factor at Tampa. So I was really, really happy when I saw the number, because I was looking at the photos and I looked at his competitor number, looked on the list and I was like, UK, went to his Instagram, and then I figured out who he was. Because he won, I think, what was it, the Arnold Classic, or he turned pro in the UK a couple of years ago. But and I think I might have to invite him up to come into the studio at Global.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I might do that. Yeah, really, I thought he was going to be second last week. But Mike Cox had the other guy. What was the other guy? Had a funny name.
I couldn't tell you right now. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I can't say funny name, but it was unusual name. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh man, I apologize everybody for not knowing that.
It doesn't matter. But top three, man, top three in a show like that, to come over from Europe and do that, and that's impressive. And he, I messaged him a couple of times back and forth and congratulated him, and he's thanks for the comment. And I'm excited. It's good that he stayed out there and he's doing some more shows, because it's important to. It's not just to get your face seen and stuff like that, because I don't know whether that really makes a difference, but it's good to get that experience of traveling and competing, you know, so because it is tough, you know, you got to in a different country and you're trying to get food and you're trying to train and do everything you need to do. And, you know, so I really take my hat off to those guys that actually step outside of their own areas and continents to really test themselves, you know, so I'm rooting for the kid, and I will definitely get him on Global in season 5.
So from the continent, which is what we call Europe, right? The continent, even though there are 7 continents altogether. There's France's Florian Parsons. How do you say his last name? Do you know?
Poisson.
Poisson? Doesn't that mean fish? Anyway.
Yeah, Poisson. No, it's Poisson.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I don't know.
So Florian, I'm aware of who he is, but I've never seen him in person. I don't think he's ever competed stateside, has he?
No,
but he's been doing very well in Europe for a long time, hasn't he? Because people have been talking about him, making threads about him on the message boards for a few years now. I always thought this guy was great, but I was like, I'm probably never going to see him. But, you know, this has been a great year for European athletes coming over to the US shows. I don't think I've seen so many in a very long time. You know, obviously the pandemic and people couldn't travel, but now that everything's opened up again, we're seeing so many amazing European pros coming over and doing these shows. So Florian, he's someone I'm very anxious to see, because like I said, I've been following and hearing great things about him for so long.
Well, do you remember when he won the Portugal Amateur Olympia, and then he did the pro the next day, and it was 4th place, I think it was. And he was only, what was he, like 24, 25 or 23 or something at the time, but he was early 20s. Yeah. And I remember I looked at this guy and I thought, oh my, the quads. He reminded me of like Dennis Wolf. Dennis Wolf with big fucking calves. and then he did the Grand Prix in 2020, the British Grand Prix, and he got last place. And it, you know, the lineup wasn't, you know, it wasn't like a top Olympia lineup. Do you know what I mean? There was good names, but I was like, wow, no, what is this guy doing? And then this year, I actually messaged his coach, Patrick Turner. I said, am I reading this right? Is Florian switching to classic? And I was like, I'm really disappointed that he's doing classic, because I thought he had real kind of potential as an open pro. And he said, Giles, he says, he just didn't want to be 300 pounds and do everything he needed to do to right now at this stage of his career. He didn't want to do everything to be competitive as an open guy. So, but then again, you know, this switching to classic, he might, I'm hoping that he might change his mind in a couple of years, because he was ready apparently for a classic at 10 pounds over his classic weight limit. So, and then the pictures I saw, he was like in top condition, and he still had another 10 pounds to go. So the new pictures I've seen, you know, it looks like he's really struggled to get down, but he's done it. So I think he could be a real factor here with Courage, because he lacked a little bit of when he dieted down, he lacked a little bit of back in the last show he did in the British Grand Prix.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a guy that I'm curious to see how he will look as a classic.
Cool. So men's physique, the same guy that won Tampa, Daniel Ammons, is doing it again. Women's physique, second place from last week, Ana Arias, Harias, not Harris, but Arias from Mexico. She looked fantastic. She was pushing Jeannie Feldman for the win. So that's my favorite. But then again, there's names on the list I've probably never heard of that could shock the hell out of me. Some of our predictions for Tampa didn't go that well, by the way. But you know, it's because there were people on that list neither one of us was familiar with.
Yeah.
And they looked amazing. That's how these shows are. I want to let everyone know the information on the show. It's battleupproductions.com. And I don't see anything as of now. We're speaking on Tuesday about a pay-per-view, but I do expect something to be added. It's taking place Friday and Saturday at the Westin Irving Convention Center. And the schedule is as follows. Friday morning at 9, we'll be judging for figure, classic, bikini, men's physique, wellness, and 212. 6 p.m. they're going to have finals for those divisions. Saturday's an easy day. Wow, good. This is going to be easy. Wow. At noon is women's physique and open bodybuilding, and then finals at 8 o'clock. And
wow.
Yeah, so guys, I don't know about the webcasts. We don't have a link or anything like that, but right here, this channel, we're going to have so much content. We'll be getting athlete interviews, all kinds of good stuff. And on musculardevelopment.com on the No Bull forum, we always do a play-by-play thread where guys like Giles and a few experts, Mike Cox, chime in, and I upload, with the help of the MD team, all the stage photos instantly. And if there's great lighting and I have a good seat, which I usually do, those pictures are pretty good. You'll see all the call outs and all that. And then later, yeah.
Your Tampa shots are great, mate. Fantastic. Some of the group shots, they were like professional pictures.
The group shots always look better.
Really? Obviously, they're going to be, but they look great, mate. And you did a good job. And have you seen the venue? Have you seen the outside of the venue?
No.
Wow.
For Texas?
Yeah, you'll love it, mate. You'll love it, and I think you'll have a really good experience, because it's like usually, it's a given that it takes a couple of years, to get certain pro shows going, especially when they're in a new area or a part of the world.
Right.
But this one, it's really hit the ground. It's like the Boston Pro. I mean, for the first year, they've set the bar so high, it makes it very you eagerly anticipate what they're going to have to come up with next to top it, because those promoters, they're passionate, man, and they really want to. It's nice to see such passionate promoters really trying to push the envelope on, with all these little tiny touches and the level of production and and stuff like that. So like, because even things like lighting and stuff like that, I swear some promoters just turn up and they just use whatever's there. But sometimes you get these guys and that like last year's lighting, it makes, remember the Iron Man, the Pro Iron Man in the 90s, the beautiful lighting. It's like, Mike Neville would sort all the lighting out when he'd go the night before and sort it out.
And it's funny because I remember all those years, because the Ironman was always a week or two before the Arnold, and you would always hear people say, "Oh, so-and-so looked better at the Ironman." I heard that so many times. I said, no, it's the lighting was so much better. It's not the athlete didn't change condition or fullness that much at all, but amazing lighting. Like that's why Kuglo looks so great. Not that he doesn't look great anyway, but you look at the shots of Kuglo from last year, Klejar from last year, Ian at that Texas show, and like, wow. Yeah. And great lighting. It really showcases the physique.
Do you remember the 2008 pictures when Phil did the Pro Ironman, and he actually uses those pictures when he signs them a lot because the lighting, it just made him look, do you know what I mean? It just shows what they've got more, because there's nothing worse than going to a show and the lighting shit. Do you know what I mean? It's you just think you feel bad for the guys who who the day before on Instagram under like crappy hotel lighting looks sensational, get on stage and look completely washed out. So it's it must be very rewarding for athletes to go and then know that they're going to, every single photo that's taken, even from a cell phone, they're going to look their best. So I'm really excited for you going to the show. Actually, I mean, I'm curious to hear your opinion. So it's going to be a good one, I think.
Yeah, and the athletes, I've heard athletes say they go to specific shows for the lighting. I've heard them say that.
Yeah,
they say, I know this show has great lighting, because a lot of them get frustrated when they say, man, it was my best look, but the pictures, you can't see it because the lighting was flat or whatever. And they appreciate those little details that some promoters really go out of their way to make sure these guys look their best. Well, that wraps it up. Again, guys, battleupproductions.com. That's Freddie's and his partner's website with all the information. If a pay-per-view is added, that information will be there. But we'll be doing our play-by-play and all our on-site coverage, all that good stuff this Friday and Saturday. So keep it on musculardevelopment.com and this YouTube channel, of course. Giles Tiger Thomas, you've been tigerific as always. Couldn't do it without you. I could, but nobody would want to listen to me. So thank you. And yeah, I'll be chatting with you on the MD group WhatsApp chat on Friday and Saturday for sure. So that's it, guys. Check out the coverage this weekend of the Texas Pro. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.